Welcome back to Dev Errors Fixed. Today, value error, invalid literal for int with base 10. You called int on something that looks like a perfectly good number, and Python threw an error anyway. It's one of the most common beginner errors because numbers so often arrive as text from input, a CSV, a JSON field, an environment variable, and int is pickier than people expect. We'll reproduce it by adding up a column of quantities, read the message closely, and fix it at the root. Let's go. Here's what the error actually means. Int with the default base 10 only accepts a clean string of digits, with an optional sign and maybe some surrounding spaces. That's it. So int of 12.5 fails because a dot isn't a digit. Int of ABC fails, letters aren't digits. An empty string fails, no digits at all. Even something like 1,000 fails because the comma isn't a digit either. One thing that does not fail, despite the myth, is surrounding spaces. Int of space 42 space is just 42, Python strips those for you. The real trap is that the value arrived as text in the first place. Here's the whole idea on one screen. Everything from the outside world, input, a CSV cell, a JSON field, an environment variable, arrives as a string, even when it looks like a number. So you convert it, and here's exactly what int accepts and what it rejects. 42 works, space 42 space works, spaces are stripped, but 12.5 is a value error. The dot isn't a digit. ABC, an empty string, 1,000, all value errors. And when it fails, read the message. The quoted value at the very end is exactly the string it choked on, your single best clue. The fix is on the right, convert and validate at the boundary the moment the data enters. Let's build it. We've got a few quantities that came in as text, and notice one of them is 12.5, a decimal, exactly the kind of value a spreadsheet or a form hands you. We start a running total at 0 and a loop that will walk the list and add up the numbers. The body is empty for now. Let's write the obvious version. Here's the natural line. Total plus equals int of q. Convert each string to an integer and add it up. And it works fine for the first 2, 3, and 10 convert cleanly. But the moment q is the string 12.5, int chokes, because it will not parse a decimal string and the whole program stops. One reasonable looking line that quietly assumed every value was a clean whole number. Run it and there's the crash. Read the traceback bottom up. The last line is the error itself. Value error. Invalid literal for int with base 10 and then in quotes 12.5. That quoted value is the exact string int couldn't parse. The line just above points at the spot total plus equals int of q. Python isn't being difficult, it's telling you precisely what it choked on and where. Let's decode that message because it hands you the answer. Invalid literal for int with base 10 means int cannot turn this text into a whole number. The quoted value at the end, 12.5, is exactly the string that failed, so you know precisely which piece of data is bad. Always read a traceback bottom up. The final line names the error and the value, and the line above it shows where it happened. And the reason here is simple. Int flatly refuses to parse a decimal string, dot, and all. So how do you fix it? First, strip the string that clears away stray spaces and new lines the number one hidden cause. Then wrap the conversion in a try, except value error, so a clean integer takes the fast path and anything odd is handled instead of crashing. For a decimal like 12.5, go through float first and then int, which gives you 12. And the best habit of all, convert and validate right where the data enters your program, so by the time you use it, it's already a real number and this error can never fire. Here is the fix. We strip the string first, then we try int of q, the clean path for a plain integer. And if that raises a value error, we fall back to int of float of q, which turns 12.5 into 12.5 and then truncates to 12. Now every value is handled. The plain integers convert directly and the decimal goes through the fallback. The key idea is to convert at the boundary and decide up front what a messy value should mean instead of assuming it's always clean. Run the fixed version. The total comes out to 25 now, 3 plus 10 plus 12, the decimal safely truncated. No crash, every value counted, and the messy one handled on purpose instead of bringing the whole program down. Quick recap, int only accepts a clean base 10 integer string, so a decimal, letters, an empty string, or a comma all raise value error, and the quoted value in the message tells you exactly which one. The fix is to convert at the boundary, strip the text, wrap it in try, accept value error, and use int or float for decimals. And the habit that prevents it entirely, parse your inputs into real numbers the moment they enter. So int is never handed something it can't read. A quick note, reproducing these errors and explaining the real fix takes real work. If it helps you, the wallets are on screen and there's a Ko-fi link below. Every tip funds the next one. Thank you. That's value error, invalid literal for int, reproduced and fixed at the root. The trap is that int is stricter than it looks and your data arrived as text, so a decimal or a stray character stops it cold. Convert at the boundary and parse your inputs early so it never comes up. Subscribe for a new dev error fixed every episode. Tell me in the comments which one keeps biting you, and I'll see you in the next one.